Chapter 2: Joseph Stalin, the Iron Fist of the Soviet Union. In the aftermath of the Russian Revolution, as the embers of the old Tsarist regime faded, a new kind of despot rose from the shadows, one not born of royal blood but of relentless ambition and ruthless calculation. His name was Joseph Stalin, and his reign would shape the 20th century with terror, control, and ideological warfare. The rise to power. Born as Ioseb Vissarionis Dzhugashvili in Georgia in 1878, Stalin would adopt his revolutionary alias meaning, Man of Steel. His early years in the Bolshevik movement were marked by criminal activity, underground organizing, and multiple exiles by the Tsarist regime. But after the 1917 October Revolution and the death of Vladimir Lenin in 1924, Stalin moved with brutal precision to consolidate power. Unlike his rivals, Stalin was not a charismatic orator. His power lay in manipulation, alliances, and fear. By 1928, he had edged out Leon Trotsky and established himself as the unchallenged leader of the Soviet Union. What followed was one of the most oppressive and violent regimes in modern history, the Great Purge. Between 1936 and 1938, Stalin launched the Great Purge, a political campaign of repression in which hundreds of thousands were executed and millions were imprisoned or sent to the gulags, labor camps, under accusations of treason, sabotage, or espionage. Friends, allies, intellectuals, military officers, and ordinary citizens all fell victim to Stalin's paranoid grip on power. Even prominent Bolsheviks who had stood beside Lenin were executed in staged show trials. The purge didn't just remove opposition, it rewrote history and enforced loyalty through terror. Forced collectivization and the Holodomor. Stalin's ambition to industrialize the Soviet Union at breakneck speed led to the implementation of forced collectivization of agriculture. Small farms were combined into large state-run enterprises. Peasants who resisted were labeled kulaks, enemies of the state, and either executed, imprisoned, or deported. This policy led to one of the most devastating man-made famines in history, particularly in Ukraine. The Holodomor, between 1932 and 1933, resulted in the deaths of an estimated 3 to 5 million Ukrainians. Grain quotas were enforced by soldiers who confiscated food at gunpoint. Starvation was widespread, and desperation led to unspeakable acts just to survive. To this day, there is debate among historians and nations as to whether the Holodomor constituted genocide, but what is indisputable is that Stalin knew the suffering it caused and allowed it to continue. World War II and the cost of victory. In 1939, Stalin shocked the world by signing the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact with Adolf Hitler, agreeing to divide Eastern Europe between Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union. It was only when Hitler betrayed him in 1941 by launching Operation Barbarossa that Stalin joined the Allies in World War II. The Soviet Union bore the brunt of the Nazi onslaught. Over 20 million Soviet citizens perished. Stalin's leadership during the war was marked by both tactical brilliance and staggering human cost. Soldiers were often sent into battle with little training, and retreating was punishable by death. Victory at Stalingrad in 1943 turned the tide of the war, and by 1945, Soviet troops marched into Berlin. Yet, even in victory, Stalin's hunger for power persisted. The post-war years and the Iron Curtain. Following World War II, Stalin extended his grip across Eastern Europe. Countries liberated by the Red Army were turned into Soviet satellite states. The Iron Curtain descended across the continent, marking the beginning of the Cold War. Internally, the post-war years brought renewed repression. The Soviet people lived under constant surveillance, and Stalin's cult of personality reached new heights. He rewrote textbooks, altered photographs, and ensured his image was synonymous with power, success, and destiny. Death and legacy. Joseph Stalin died in 1953, but his shadow loomed long after. Nikita Khrushchev's secret speech in 1956 revealed the extent of Stalin's crimes, shocking even those who had lived under him. Estimates of Stalin's victims vary, but most historians agree that tens of millions died under his regime, through purges, famines, gulags, and war. Yet in some corners of Russia and former Soviet states, he remains a symbol of strength and national pride, complicating his legacy to this day. Studio microphone, suitable for narration. This script is structured to support a text-to-speech format. It maintains clarity, progression, and dramatic tension for audience engagement. Let me know if you want a version broken into voiceover pacing segments, visual cue suggestions, or background music tone for your YouTube automation channel.